All right, I don't think I'm gonna spend a lot of time on this one. I fully understand now that I am not the audience for Deadpool. Now, that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. I could see why he's appealing to today's audience. I think Ryan Reynolds is really funny. I guess after a certain point, I want to settle into a good superhero action flick, which this is, but with minus all of the inside jokes and the turning to the camera and all that stuff.
Your time's up, dumbass.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
For me, it gets a little tiresome after a while. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but be that as it may, I mean, this movie, I'm hesitant to say it's a bad movie, but for me, much like the first one, the central story just didn't grab me. I just didn't feel like it was worth watching, I don't know. I hate saying this cliched phrase, but the stakes just weren't high enough for me. I mean, they had a lot of characters introduced into this film. They had Cable, played by Josh Brolin, who was amazing. He killed it. I know everyone was hoping to see Stephen Lang play that part, but I thought he was great. I thought Zazie Beetz did a great job as Domino. I think she's an actress to really keep your eye on. But it just seemed like there was so much thrown into this in service of such a inconsequential story, in my opinion. I thought the kid playing Fire Fist, I mean, for a child actor, he did his thing, but I wasn't drawn to him. I didn't think he had that much charisma. I didn't think he had enough charisma to warrant all of these elements swooping into this film, and for the central story to be about protecting him. I'm gonna try to spoil this as little as possible. I don't know, I just felt like I was watching a lot of action scenes, which were kind of dope. Yeah, I admit that, but it all added up to not much of anything. There's some things about this film that did have me geeking out just a bit. There is a funny sequence where Deadpool and his partner, I don't remember his name, played by TJ Miller, they hold auditions to create a superhero team, X-Force. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think most people knew that X-Force was going to appear in this movie. And then once they go out on their first, their first mission, it doesn't go as planned. Now, while I thought that sequence was brilliantly funny, it made me thinking, is this where we are, where we just throw in these characters just for sight gags? It reminded me of the character in Suicide Squad. I can't remember his name. I think he was played by a Native American actor, who we didn't see a lot of in that film, and we don't see a lot of these characters in this film, and that's kind of a spoiler. So we end up with Deadpool, Domino, and Cable shouldering most of the action. I don't know if that's based on an arc in the comic books, which I've never read X-Force, never read Deadpool, so maybe that was pulled from the books where it's just those three teaming up in a trio. I don't know. Then they add another character that was dope as hell to see. I'm not going to reveal this. Visually on screen, this character looked amazing and incredible and very almost scary. We've seen this character in a previous film, and the character didn't look anywhere like this. So they got this right, because I went back and I did some light Googling, and I Googled this character, and yeah, this character has that build, at least in some of the renderings that I did see. But again, why throw that in there? With the addition of X-Force and how they get their resolution, and the addition of this surprise character and how it gets resolved, it just seemed like they realized they had a very slim story, which they do, and they were trying to cram the movie in with other elements to kind of distract you from that. Oh yeah, they did have Colossus. Colossus was on the team as well. He comes back. He shoulders some of the scenes as well. And while I love the way this Colossus looks, I'd rather him be in the costume that I'm familiar with, somewhat with the red and the yellow. This Colossus, I mean, number one, he looks a little older than I would expect Peter Nikilovich Rasputin, I think that's his name. I'd like to see him in his human form, and I'd like to see him transform into Colossus. And the Colossus that I read, now I read X-Men avidly in the late 70s, throughout the 80s, particularly when John Byrne, Chris Claremont, Tom Orzechowski was doing the lettering, Terry Austin was doing the inking. Is it clear that I was a fan of this team? I think it's hands down the best creative team ever in comic books to this day. But that's when I was reading X-Men, and Peter came off more as like a naive, lovable, young kind of person. Whereas this Colossus seems like just as much, almost as much an asshole as Deadpool does. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just not the character that I'm familiar with. And I think having the character that I am familiar with contrast to Deadpool would make for a better, I don't know, a better dynamic. I think another area that I had a problem with this film was that, okay, whereas in the first one, from what I recall, they just went all out with the humor, with breaking the fourth wall, which is part of Deadpool's MO, I understand that. But in this film, there's an element involving his love interest, played by Morena Baccarin, I think is how you pronounce her name, that it wants you to actually feel something for Deadpool and his girlfriend. It actually tries to evoke some sort of emotion, some caring emotion. And to me, it just seems like a waste of time, or just falls flat for two reasons. One, I can't take it seriously because I've just seen Deadpool acting a fool, talking to the audience, making all these wisecracks.
Tell me they got that in slow motion.
And then they want to shift gears, particularly at the end, not spoiling anything, and they want us to all of a sudden understand that the movie has a heart, which it just didn't work for me. The second thing is, and this is a mild spoiler, they kind of do a thing, it's funny, it kind of works, but it undercuts everything that we just saw. They do kind of 1977 Superman the movie thing. And if you're old enough to understand what I'm talking about, I guess I've spoiled it for you. Chances are you're not old enough to know what I'm talking about, and you've never seen that movie from 1977. Well, if you're a true geek, you probably have. So if I spoiled it, I'm sorry. But my point is that kind of undercuts all of the emotion that I was supposed to have for those scenes where we see Deadpool embracing his girlfriend and having a loving, sincere moment. Having said all that, I'm going to give this movie 3 out of 5 reels, because if you are a Deadpool fan, which I admit I am not that much of, I appreciate his character, but if you are a Deadpool fan, you will love it. I understand why you'll love it. So in other words, I'm not going to penalize this film just because I don't really feel that much for the character. It's a great popcorn flick. It is funny, and I believe I heard or I read on Facebook, or maybe in one of the YouTube message boards, that the Deadpool franchise kind of is igniting the superhero genre in film, because first of all, it's an R-rated film and it's killing it at the box office, and it's irreverent. You know, that's a cliched thing to say, but it is irreverent. It takes superhero movies to another direction, in another direction. And, you know, I appreciate that. I just wish they had some more solid stories to tell, stories with more heft than what I've seen in Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. And that's the martini.
You killed it.